Welcome back to BK Collectables. If you love American coins, rare mint history, and treasure hiding in plain sight, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Today, we're diving into the remarkable story of the New Orleans Mint, one of the most fascinating and underrated branches of the United States Mint. From the antebellum era through the end of the Morgan dollar, this mint played a critical role in shaping American numismatics. And along the way, it struck some of the most collectible coins you'll ever come across. Let's get started. The New Orleans Mint was authorized in the early 1830s and began operations in 1838. Located in the heart of Louisiana, it was one of the few mints outside Philadelphia authorized by Congress to address the coinage shortage in the expanding South and West. At the time, gold and silver were pouring in from new discoveries and trade routes, and the need for additional minting capacity was urgent. This mint became the third branch mint established by the United States, following the Charlotte and Dalonga mints, both of which focused on gold. However, New Orleans had a much more versatile role. It struck both gold and silver coins and would go on to produce millions of coins used across the nation. Its distinctive O mint mark is still one of the most recognized by collectors today. One of the earliest and most historic coins struck at the New Orleans Mint was the 1838 O seated Liberty dime. This dime is extremely rare and is notable for being among the very first coins struck by this mint. A small number of proofs were made, and they're considered national treasures by collectors. If you ever come across an 1838 O seated Liberty dime, know that you are holding one of the earliest pieces of Southern mint history. In its early years, the New Orleans Mint was primarily producing silver coinage. Seated Liberty dimes, quarters, and half dollars were regularly struck. These coins often circulated widely, especially in the Gulf Coast and along the Mississippi River. Trade and commerce flowed through New Orleans, making it a strategic location for minting coins. In the 1840s and 50s, the mint also began striking gold coins. This included gold dollars, quarter eagles, half eagles, and eagles. These coins are highly collectible today, especially in higher grades. Because of New Orleans's location and economy, many of these coins saw heavy circulation and are rare in uncirculated condition. As we moved into the 1860s, the New Orleans Mint story took a dramatic turn. During the Civil War, Louisiana seceded from the Union in 1861. Control of the mint changed hands rapidly. For a brief time, the Confederate States used the mint to strike their own coins. This resulted in one of the most legendary pieces in American coinage. The 1861 O half dollar struck under three different authorities: the United States, the state of Louisiana, and the Confederate States of America. Of particular fascination is the 1861 O Confederate half dollar. These coins were struck using an obverse die from the United States and a newly created Confederate reverse. The design includes a shield with 7 stars and agricultural motifs. Today, the 1861 O Confederate half dollar is among the most prized possessions of collectors and museums alike. The mint ceased operation during the rest of the Civil War and remained closed for over a decade. But in 1879, it was reactivated. This marked the beginning of what many coin collectors consider the mint's golden era, the Morgan dollar years. From 1879 to 1904, the New Orleans Mint struck millions of Morgan dollars, and these coins continue to captivate collectors to this day. The O mint mark found on the reverse of these coins identifies them as New Orleans issues. But not all Morgan dollars are created equal. Some are far rarer than others. Let's talk about the 1893 O Morgan dollar. This coin is one of the key dates in the entire Morgan series. It had a relatively low mintage of just over 300,000, and high-grade examples are especially rare. Many of these coins were melted down during the Pittman Act of 1918, which led to the destruction of millions of silver dollars. If you find an 1893 O Morgan dollar in fine or better condition, you've got a serious treasure on your hands. Another important coin is the 1895 O Morgan dollar. Although the Philadelphia version of this date is more famous for its lack of circulation strikes, the New Orleans version is no slouch either. The 1895 O Morgan dollar was poorly struck and often poorly preserved, making mint state examples particularly hard to find. It remains one of the toughest mint coins in the series. Then there's the 1896 Morgan dollar, notorious for weak strikes and bag marks. The New Orleans Mint had aging equipment and limited resources, which often resulted in lower quality coins. That said, this adds to the charm and character of these issues. A well-preserved 1896 Morgan dollar in mint state can fetch a significant premium. Don't forget the 1889 Morgan dollar, a coin that may not be as scarce in lower grades but becomes very difficult to find in high mint state. New Orleans coins are often marked by weak detail and rough handling, making pristine examples of many dates rare and desirable. Let's step back for a moment and appreciate the legacy of the Morgan dollar itself. Designed by George T. Morgan, these coins featured Lady Liberty on the obverse and an eagle clutching arrows and an olive branch on the reverse. The design was meant to reflect American strength and peace. The inscription "In God We Trust" appears above the eagle in lowercase, as was customary at the time. For collectors, the New Orleans Morgan dollars provide an essential chapter in the full Morgan story. They offer an interesting contrast to coins minted in Philadelphia, San Francisco, Carson City, and Denver. Each mint had its own characteristics, and New Orleans coins often bear the signs of speed and volume production. In 1904, the mint struck its last Morgan dollar. The following year, it was closed for good as coin production consolidated in other cities. But its influence on American numismatics didn't end there. The building itself is still standing today and serves as a museum and cultural site, preserving the legacy of one of the most important mints in American history. Now, let's circle back to some of the other well-known coins that came from this mint. The 1890 Morgan dollar is a common date, but like many New Orleans issues, it's tough to find with a sharp strike. The 1885 Morgan dollar is another highly collected piece, especially in uncirculated grades. Many of these coins were stored in treasury vaults and later released in the mid-20th century, making high-grade examples more available than their mintage might suggest. Also worth noting is the 1881 Morgan dollar, which had a large mintage and is fairly easy to find in circulated condition. However, the challenge with New Orleans coins isn't always about rarity. Sometimes it's about quality. Coins with full strikes and clean surfaces are always in high demand. One of the most fascinating aspects of collecting New Orleans mint coins is the variation you can find in strike quality, luster, and overall eye appeal. Because the mint was operating with aging equipment and under tight deadlines, inconsistencies were common. This makes collecting coins from this mint a more nuanced and rewarding pursuit. Collectors often assemble sets of Morgan dollars by mint, and the New Orleans set is a favorite. It's large enough to be challenging, but not so difficult as to be impossible. And with coins like the 1893 and 1895 there's plenty of value and history to appreciate. Looking beyond Morgan dollars, the New Orleans Mint also produced barber coinage. The barber half dollars, barber quarters, and barber dimes from New Orleans are sought after, especially in high grade. For example, the 1892 barber half dollar, the first year of issue, is popular among type collectors. For those looking to build a broader set of coins from this mint, seated Liberty coinage, barber series, and even gold coins all provide exciting opportunities. The story of the New Orleans Mint is a story of resilience, legacy, and the power of coinage to reflect national history. From its antebellum origins through the Civil War and into the Industrial Age, the mint was a critical part of the United States economy and identity. The coins it produced weren't just metal, they were commerce, culture, and history in your pocket. If you're new to collecting, starting with New Orleans coins offers a unique mix of accessibility and depth. You can find common Morgan dates to get started, and then work your way up to rarities like the 1893 the 1895 or even earlier seated Liberty and gold issues. Every coin tells a story, and every piece from the New Orleans Mint brings you closer to a forgotten chapter of American history. Thank you for watching BK Collectables. Whether you're chasing your first Morgan dollar or researching the rarest New Orleans issues, I hope this journey through the legacy of the New Orleans Mint inspired you to look closer at your collection. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories, more history, and more hidden treasures in American coinage. See you next time.